Hello, brothers and sisters. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. I mean, spare me how I look. I'm just walking up right now. But there's something that I want to address that I think it's important. And this video is going to help us amplify that. So, mostly we have been fighting amongst ourselves, we black people. We have been going on black. We have been fighting against each other, not knowing that this seed of hatred between us, not knowing this seed of fighting against us ourselves, amongst ourselves, is something which was planted by the American, especially the white rich class. So this video is gonna be an eye opener for all of us, black folks across the world, and these, I don't know who I'll call him, let me just call him a white man. This white man right here is telling some truth that we all need to hear, we black folks, especially if you're a person who is recently knowing what's happening in the United States. So let's watch this video and then come back, say something as usual, you know what I'm saying? So
say that again. The whole history of America is the history of rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. It starts in the colonies of what would become the United States. Let's remember, during the colonial period, mid-1600s, there was no such thing as white people. I know some people who are now called white find that shocking, right? Because they think whiteness is real, right? But whiteness was created. Europeans didn't call themselves white. We didn't call ourselves white. We weren't all members of one big happy family. Are you kidding? Have you studied the history of Europe? The history of Europe was about killing each other. That's what we did in Europe. We just killed each other before we figured out there were other people to kill. We just killed each other, right? I mean, that was the history of Europe. The English hated the Irish, right? Northern Italians didn't even think that Southern Italians were Italians. The Germans hated everybody, and everybody hated their ass right back, right? There was no team called white, no race called white, but all of a sudden, in the middle of the 1600s, there was. Why? Why was it suddenly necessary to create this thing called the white race? Well, because rich people can count. That's why. And so rich folks looked around, the ones that owned all the land, in the colonies, the colonial elite looked around and they realized something, that they were heavily outnumbered by African enslaved folks, by European indentured servants who were just one level above a slave, or other Europeans who weren't technically indentured servants, but they were still peasants, didn't have any money, didn't have any land, and they could do the math. They added it up and they were like, damn, we got to figure out a way to split these folks apart from one another or they're going to rise up and take our stuff, right? Because after a while, these black folks who were enslaved Africans and these quote unquote white folks who were poor Europeans are going to figure out they're all getting played by these rich people, right? So ultimately the rich figure out they got to come up with some way to get somebody in that group on their team. The easiest thing is to get the poor Europeans, right? Because at least they look like you. They sort of share some of the customs and the culture. So they all of a sudden create this thing called whiteness and they say, now you're part of the club. Now we're going to let you testify in court, enter into contracts, vote, at least if you're a man, own a little bit of land, at least if you're a man, right? And we're going to get rid of indentured servitude. No more of that because you're too good for that. And we're going to take the white men, now called white men, and put them on the slave patrol to keep black people in line. Give them a horse and a gun and a badge and make them feel big and powerful, right? They're still poor. They still don't have anything. They didn't pay the slave patrol well, right? Just exploited them, used them as a buffer between the elite and the other poor folks, particularly poor folks of color. And pretty soon the rebellions that occasionally happened where black and white got together to overthrow the elite, those stopped because the divide and conquer had begun to work, right? You could turn people against each other by telling those poor white folks, they got to keep these black people in line. And so that divide and conquer gets initiated in the colonies. Rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. Fast forward to the Civil War era. And you have, I'm from the South, right? My people, the elite in my part of the country, right, actually announced that the reason they wanted to break away from the Union and possibly go to war with their brothers and sisters to the North was in order to maintain slavery and white supremacy. They said that at the time. We lie about it now. And we say it had nothing to do with that. But of course, at the time, they didn't have any shame about it, so they just said it openly. Right? The vice president of the Confederacy, Alexander Stephens, said that the cornerstone of the new government was the great truth that the Negro was not the equal of the white man. So that's the reason the Confederacy was formed and existed. But here's the trick. If I'm rich and I want to go to war to protect my ownership in other human beings, my property, but you're poor and you don't own any enslaved people. Why the hell would you go fight to protect my stuff? Because I'm a rich person. I'm not going to fight. Rich people don't go to war, right? Rich people get poor people to go to war for them, whether it's in 1860 or whether it's during the 1960s or whether it's today, right? Rich folks get doctors to write notes for them that say that they have heel spurs and that's why they can't go to Vietnam. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, you can Google that shit because he's sitting in the White House right now, right? Well, I can't go fight. I have heel spurs. Send some poor kids to do that for me, please, right? So that's been a long-standing tradition. So the rich have to figure out a way to convince the poor to go fight for them. But that's a hard thing. That's like a hard sell, right? Like how the hell, why would you do that? Why would you go fight to protect my property rights when you don't own anything? The only way you would do it is if that rich person comes to you and says, hey, listen, you gotta go fight because we gotta maintain our way of life because if these people get free, they're gonna take your jobs. No, fool, they already got your job. That's how it works, right? Because if I'm white and I got to charge you $1 a day to work on the farm, but you can get a black person to do it for nothing because you own them, guess who got the job? Free got the job, right? So in a sense, poor white folks would have been better off joining with black folks to overthrow the slave system. That would have raised the wage floor of all working people. But they got tricked by rich white men telling them that their enemies were black and brown. Fast forward to the 1930s. And you have white labor leaders. They're not even the elite, right? The labor leaders are not the elite, but they're the elite within the labor movement. And even they had fallen for it at this point. So they didn't want to integrate their unions. And they would say things like, well, we can't have black people and Mexicans and Chinese folks in our unions because if we do that, it's going to reduce the professionalism of our craft. We have to maintain the integrity of our profession. No, fool, you need more people in the damn union is what you need. And if you don't let those folks in, guess what happens when you go out on strike? Who is the boss going to use to replace you? They're going to replace you with the very same black and brown folks that you didn't want to work next to, right? And so at the end of and then you're going to blame them for taking your job rather than the white rich dude for giving it to them, right? Divide and conquer, telling not rich white folks that their enemies are black and brown. And now we fast forward to the president. We got the president of the United States becoming president on the basis of that same rhetoric. Telling not rich white folks that the reason they don't have a job is because Mexicans took them, right? That's the argument. Keep in mind, there's been a net outflow of Mexican folks from this country, out of this country in the last 10 years. Right now, border crossings and actual in-migration at the lowest level they've been since the 1970s. So anybody who believes that is a damn fool or somebody who does not understand how to do research on the internet or someone who doesn't care, right? But he says the reason you don't have a job is those brown folks took them.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I hope you've had by yourself by the ease. I couldn't find the whole clip, but until the moment, that's enough to tell you that we have always been played with black folks. We have always been played. We have been used. We have always been played, and it is written on the wall. And I'm glad that some white folks are also seeing this and they're addressing this. And of recent, we have been having a lot of confession from the other race. You know what I'm saying? So it means that we have always been played, just as I told you before. See, Americans don't want other group in America. So when other group in America come, they'll go to the black neighborhood and tell them, you know, this group of people is coming here. We don't want them here. We want you to take them out of here. So you're fighting a fight which is not yours. You're fighting a fight against each other. We have a group like Latino, Mexicans who come to the States. You know, some of them have stayed in the States for quite a number of time. So these groups, they're afraid that when they come together, they can be stronger. So what do? They say that, we got some Latinos here. We need to fight them off. They're making us do this. They're making us do this. And also they go to the Latino neighborhood, which is in the States, to tell them, these black folks, they're not good people to you. They're doing this to you. They don't want you here. So they keep you divided. Rather, you should be knowing that you should be standing together. You should be fighting together. I mean, that's what you need to do as black people. And it's written on the wall that right now, we need to stand together. We need to say no to all these things because the system it's always against a black person. And that's the truth. This brother who's standing here telling you this, these are people who are now woke and they know the truth. At least I can call them woke because they know the truth. And they want to disseminate this information to all black folks across the continent. They want you to know the truth, what's happening inside and outside the America. And America is like a beast, America is like a beast. And somehow some of the white people that it has taught, like some of the white people have been raised by the belly of the beast, and that's the America, that's the United States. A situation where if you sign any contract with the America, 3/4 of everything the America has to benefit from it. You only have to benefit from the quarter. Everything, every deal that you sign with them, so when they go to the black neighborhood, they tell the black neighborhood, we don't want those people here. So we want you to shout, we want you to put them away. Rather, they be the ones who will be benefiting from these things, but it's not even entirely black people. At the expense of black people and other marginalized groups, which is coming to the United States. I'm talking about the immigrants. This means that they'll start fighting against each other. And the white Americans who find themselves as rich group, they know very well that if these small groups in America, especially the immigrants, come together with the black people, they can be a strong combination. They can be a strong combo that can help them stop this slavery, help them stop this modern slavery, help them stop these things that they're doing to the marginalized groups, especially the white people. It is just recently that I knew that blacks in US are 12% rather than the 21%. I mean, rather than the 41% that people know. I was shockingly surprised. I don't know if this is true, but that's what I came to find out. Most of blacks in the States are around 12% of the population, and other small marginalized groups, So they don't want you to come together. When you come together, that's how the problem starts. So the fight has always been to fight you away. The fight has always been to put you away. The fight has always been not you to know the truth and keep on fighting against each other. Bring immigrants in the country, make blacks angry, make blacks fight against each other, make blacks not focus, because now we will be focusing on the immigrants who are coming to the States, not focusing on things which are going on, things which wants a black person's opinion, wants a black person's contribution. And when you lack these, you're losing focus, you're losing focus. So it's like we are kind of being distracted. And at the same time, we're having a group of people who want us to fight against each other because they know very well that if we stand stronger, it's over for them. That's what they know. And it can be a powerful combination. If we have some Latinos in the States who are with black people and standing with black people, we can have some also African immigrants, because we are seeing an interest increasing in the States, people going to the United States looking for jobs inside there. So with other small groups, there's other small groups which are there, especially which historically were looked down upon, Dominican. Every group which is right there because they're basically black, you know what I'm saying? So with this being said, if these small groups can come together and fight this beast, they can change the story. They can rewrite their own story, you know what I'm saying? So basically, that's what the States doesn't want you to know. So if you don't have that, they win. And they gotta use you to their benefit. And they don't wanna fight, just like the brother said. They wanna make you fight for them. They wanna beat us amongst ourselves. They wanna divide us. They wanna put some rules that favors a white person but don't favor a black person. And this is something which has always been there, you know what I'm saying? And I'm glad that I don't know if it's God himself is using his own people to talk to these white guys, and then they're coming online and confessing everything and telling the truth. This guy might be an educator of something. I'm not sure what it is, but he said some good points, Doesn't matter. He said some good points, whether he's white, you know what I'm saying? He said some good points. And I believe that this thing is really, really important for us. So, guys, if you watch this video until here, you can consider subscribing to the channel. You can join my membership. You can give the video a thumbs up, you know what I'm saying, so that it reach a couple of people, so that people may get to interact with the material, because I believe that it needs to reach a number of people. So you can also share with other people, interested people you have common mindset with, you know what I'm saying. So until then, let's meet in the next episode. This is Eugene from Kenya. Seeing you in the next episode.